There are over 7 billion people on this planet. Throughout your lifetime, you'll probably interact with 0.0000001% of that population. And of that population, many of those people you'll only see once. Maybe they're a stranger on the street, or someone at the drive-thru. However, there is a small group of people who we see on multiple occasions. Classmates, co-workers, friends, neighbors, etc. And it's within this pool that romance usually emerges. Maybe it's that one classmate of yours that sits 2 rows behind you. Maybe it's that coworker that always comes into work with a positive attitude. Hell, maybe it's a random person who takes the same bus as you at the same times. This is where crushes develop, and after that realization grips you, you start forming some sort of game plan. I know, you want to sound cool like you don't pre-plan anything, but just naturally attract other people. But come on, you at least think about what you're gonna say beforehand. You could be honest with me, we're friends after all. Speaking of which, howdy, I'm Amy from Amygdala Vids, and in this video I want to offer some suggestions in case you do have one of these crushes at the moment. After all, there's nothing sadder than an unexpressed romance that just passes away in silence. You get into that whole what could have been mindset, and I don't want that for you, my friend. I want to see you two eating some fancy pasta I can't pronounce next to a river glittering with the stars above. Come on, I know you want that with them. Unless you don't like pasta. In which case, you probably deserve to be alone. Well, since romance is a significant part of many people's lives, I wondered if philosophy could provide us with some helpful tips as to how to go about this romance plan, for lack of a better phrase. This led me to look into the Christian existentialist Soren Kierkegaard's unusual work, The Seducer's Diary. This piece is part of a book Either Or, which compares the aesthetic life with the ethical life, and I think you could imagine where this one lies. Now here's the thing, this is one hell of a read. I got vibes from Nabokov's Lolita as well as Ellis's American Psycho. It's written in diary form, obviously, from the perspective of this egotistical, creepy dude named Johannes. Now I initially went into this book to get some insight as to our question, but Johannes is just so bad in this book that this video turned into how not to flirt instead of how to flirt. You know, there are those videos on YouTube like how to psychologically manipulate someone to like you, and it's like, nah, screw that. It may defeat the whole separation of the ethical and the aesthetic, but I'm gonna keep this ethical as well. And this dude's clearly unethical. But it's not only that. I feel like what he does wouldn't even be practical. I mean, I don't know how they did it in Copenhagen in the 1800s, but I feel like this just wouldn't work today. So we're gonna use our seducer Johannes as an anti-role model, looking at what he does wrong and then playing an Uno reverse card to determine an ethical and practical approach to flirting. Now I know I just kinda roasted this guy, but he does do some minor things right. Number 1 is to appreciate a first encounter. Now in this book, Johannes is trying to seduce this girl, Cordelia. Now they're both at this big public place and she looks lost looking for someone. He goes over and just casually points her to another room where this person might be. She smiles back and he kinda gets an emotional erection from all this. That smile is worth much more to me than you think. It is the beginning, and the beginning is always the hardest. Now we are acquainted, and our acquaintance is based upon a piquant situation. It is enough to be going on with. Now you don't have to go all goo goo gaga over a smile, but there is something to be said about how important a first interaction is. First impressions mean a lot, obviously, but at the same time it doesn't have to be some grand fantastical interaction. I know, when you get into that fantasy lovey-dovey mode, you imagine a first interaction to be some Romeo and Juliet shit. But it's probably better to be chill and low-key about it, you know? Also, the environment invites conversation. So here Johannes utilizes the fact that she's lost in some big public place as a reason to talk to her. It's much more smooth and casual when you have a reason to talk to them. I mean, how many times have you been approached in public by a stranger just introducing themselves? It's more likely that a stranger interacts with you because of the situation. If you're in class, ask about the homework or ask for a pencil. Stuff like that, you know? Okay, that's probably the only positive thing I'll say about Johannes. And even then, this whole quote is a bit suspect. In fact, the next point is a clear don't do this. Throughout the book, Johannes is kinda stalking her to get information about her. He hides and writes these long, poetic notes about her. I swear, I think he wrote a whole paragraph about the way her nose curves. I'm not joking. I hope this goes without saying, but don't stalk people. But point 2 is not just about not stalking. It's about being conscious about the other person's individuality in a more ethical way. So here's the thing. Many times people give general dating and flirting advice, and this is fine for the most part. After all, I think it's safe to say that generally, people would not react kindly if you said that they look like Shrek. But don't let this general advice obfuscate the individual. Flirting is still a human activity, and you gotta respect the fact that the person you're flirting with is a human being with dreams and personality, not just some computer who you input general flirty lines into, you know? But of course, in order to really engage with the other person's humanity, you gotta get to know them. But instead of stalking them like Johannes, how about you, I don't know, talk to them? Now here's the other thing. Don't just small talk, talk for the sake of killing the silence. Ask questions like, so what are you passionate about? Or what are your hobbies? I notice that asking them about their jobs sometimes isn't as good because many people work jobs they just don't give a shit about. Hobbies though, that's where it's at. And yeah, you could add in that flirtatious flair here and there, but keep it human. After all, you should be getting to know them to make sure that they're compatible with you, not only vice versa. Now I got one more point, and it's probably the biggest one. If there's one piece of advice about flirting that I could convey to you, if there's one thing you take away from this poorly produced video, it's this. You listening? You got your volume up? Good. This is the ultimate secret after all. Number 3 is to put your life first. Wait, what? You're telling me to focus on my own life primarily and focus on my dating life secondarily? I know, it sounds like it'd be going against flirting, but hear me out first. So Johannes mentions this, but he doesn't practice what he preaches. Here's his quote. It doesn't seem I can expect so soon to get any information about the girl who fills my soul and thoughts so much that they keep her loss alive. Now I shall stay quite calm. For this state I'm in, this obscure and undefined but intense unrest, has a sweet side nevertheless. I have always loved, on a moonlight night, to lie out in a boat on one of our lovely lakes. I take in the sails and the oars, remove the rudder, stretch out full length, and gaze up into the vault of heaven. Now despite this, every entry in Johannes' diary is about Cordelia, with a couple exceptions being made when he talks about other girls. And later on in the book, he floods her with letters. Instead, I want to suggest you put the phone down, stop texting them, stop thinking about them, and consider yourself for a moment. Now I want you to ask, would you date yourself? No, this isn't some weird ethical question about having sex with a clone of yourself. I want you to look at your life and what you have to offer from an outside perspective. Ask yourself those same questions we discussed earlier. What are you passionate about? What are your hobbies? But also ask, what have you accomplished in regards to your hobbies or passions? When you get crushing on someone, you start thinking to yourself, am I the type of person they're looking for? You start thinking about it like a job interview where you have to impress the interviewer to get the position. But what's equally important as you being compatible with them is if they're compatible with you. A lot of people, after recognizing a crush, get into pursuit mode. You start thinking, okay, what can I say or do to win them over? But this implies that you're somehow less than the other person, and that you gotta jump through hoops for the honor of dating them. You start looking at them like a prize, but hey, you're a prize too. And if you don't feel like you yourself are a prize worthy to be romantically sought after, then stop worrying about dating and first work on yourself. Become that prize. Take steps to improve your aesthetic appeal, but also do things not only for the sake of getting a date. Things like pursuing your passion, having a creative outlet, making something you're proud of. Not only is this good for your life in general, but yes, it does help you in the dating world too. Passion is attractive. I love listening to people talk about what they're interested in or what they're creating with that certain energy. Having a passion gives you character and makes your crush think, damn, if I date this person, I get to go along on their journey exploring their passion. Look, to sum it up briefly, don't obsess over them and work on yourself instead. So those are some considerations we get from a negative reading of the Seducer's Diary. Is that the right phrase to use? Negative reading? I don't know. What I do know is that you should subscribe because if you aren't satisfied with these considerations on flirting, I'm planning something regarding Ovid's The Art of Love, which I think is more practical than this work. Anyway, I hope these considerations help you out, and I wish you all a very beautiful rest of your day.